Hi, welcome to Light Up. I know it's been a while before we last had a chat or conversation, and today we're just going to focus a lot more on quick thoughts, something you can think about and then say, okay, I didn't think about it that way, but that's all okay. Actually driving to this set to do this recording, one of the quick thoughts that I had not given so much attention, but then somehow it came to me, was the idea of how we work with young people in terms of getting them to do things, but through more or less a parent commanding a child mode. And I think this in many ways tends to build a lot of resistance on the side of the child and, so to say, resentment. So there are several layers or several things that we can actually talk about. But I'll use an example to explain or illustrate this exact point so you get it. So let's take, for example, when we talk about meals. And I'll take it from the perspective of you as a parent. Even if you take your time to look back and think, oh, what were those things that I was always told to eat, partake of, but I didn't like them. And yet right now, as an adult, you don't even need to think about it. I'll take as an example, for me, when I was growing up, I wasn't a fan of rabbit food, vegetables. I wasn't a fan of greens in my food. I really struggled. Yet later on, it was like a flip switch that you wake up one day and all of a sudden you don't want to take a meal without greens. You prefer to take vegetables as opposed to other types of food. But I think because at that point, I as an adult now see the value in that and how I feel, and I think about it, I meditate about it, but I see actual value. And I think for us as parents to think that this does not apply to a young person, that they can't get that understanding even at an early age, is wrong. So my quick thought is this: if we want to kind of promote health through dieting, through nutrition, if we want to help young people to appreciate why they should have a balanced diet, why they shouldn't only take sugar beverages, why they should take a lot of water, look at the blistering heat that we are going through right now, we need to have conversations about values, okay? And in that we can help them to understand, what is it that I gain? What is the benefit that I get for myself? So a young person, when they see themselves as children, they are growing up, you need to show them the value of building a body, putting on some muscles. And then you attribute that to proteins, you talk about fiber, you talk about carbohydrates. If you want to talk to them about vitamins, then they need to understand why they should take fruits. Otherwise, they're children who, once you put fruits in front of them, they will reject that. And even as teenagers, they will just say, I don't like fruits. I like taking Coca-Cola, and then you buy that. I like taking all these other beverages, and there is nothing wrong. I don't want you to hear that I said Coca-Cola and you think I'm being negative about it. No. As a young person, they need to have all these things. Talk to them about the difference between artificial sugar and natural sugar so that they get the difference. It's all sugars. But they need to start evaluating these differences and the ultimate benefit for themselves. And you need to model this using a language that they can understand, that they can relate to, so that you can kind of try to show them a trajectory. And there are not so many of us who, for example, have the habit of having weigh scales, you know, in our homes, that a young person can, from time to time, every 3 months, every 6 months, step on the weighing scale. You do the same so that they see these differences. Later on, not many of us, but I think this practice goes on, where you can mark a place in a house where you can try to show someone's progression in terms of height and how tall they are getting or how big they are getting. I mean, if you look at the history of photos, now that we have all these smartphones, we no longer need to go to studios. You can take photos. So you might have a library or an archive of the photos of your child from when they were babies to today when they're teenagers or when they're younger youth. you can show them that progression and then talk about food. Talk about how you've managed to help them, feed them, look after them, so that they can see the benefits and the progression and where this conversation is going. As opposed to when you just put food in front of a person and you tell them that's what you have to eat. You know, and let's also face it, and this is the last story I'm going to give, and then we will close the thought. One time I went to a doctor, a pediatrician, actually my mother-in-law, so to say. So when we went there, our child was sick, and when they did the blood work and the like, it was bacterial infections and the like, the common language that all parents nowadays in this era face when you go to hospital. There's a lot of infections that kind of contribute to the illnesses among children and toddlers. And after we established what the problem was, the key major issue we were facing at the time, because the child was sick, they didn't want to take anything. They were rejecting everything. And you know, feeding a child is very important. And now they're sick. And so the doctor then asks the child, they're telling me you don't want any food. What do you want to eat? And the child immediately said, ice cream. And then she said, so why don't you get her ice cream? And we're like, but ice cream is not food. That was our immediate reaction. And then she said, there is a tendency for parents, yes, even with the knowledge, to want to say, this is what you have to eat, this is what a child needs to eat. But the doctor then told us that you also need to always pay attention and listen to the children. And I'm not saying if a child says, I want to take sodas all the time, or I just want to take this and that all the time consistently, junk food and the other, that's what you should constantly feed them. But she told us the primary objective is that you need to get them to eat. So it's very important that you also listen to them. Now, in periods when they are under duress, when they are not feeling well and they're ill, you might want to listen to what it is that they want to take in and immediately respond to that. But I think the larger picture from that conversation was, try as much as possible and sometimes pull yourself from the position of being a parent and just listen to this child, because like it or not, even if they're young, they have a mind of their own. One that you need to help train, yes. One that you need to engage so that they can understand what it is that they're supposed to have, when, and the benefits exactly. And I think that brings us to the full circle of what I was talking about, that to have a conversation about what a child needs in terms of dieting, what they need in terms of ensuring their health, what they need in terms of growing up, is to help them understand and to attach value to that. So in this kind of conversation, they begin to see beyond the bare, or the obvious, that there is a meal in front of me, but then they begin to build attributions of benefits to me as a person. So a young person must be able to understand, why do they take proteins? And then you talk about the foods that contain proteins in them. Why do they need to have vitamin C? And then you talk about the foods. Because if a child understands that to have vitamin C is to build immunity, among other benefits, then they won't resist much in terms of taking fruits and other things that can contribute to that kind of dieting. So, food for thought. Listening to the children, having conversations in a language that they can relate to and understand, which is also age appropriate, helps for us to help them understand why they should do certain things. And now this can go beyond the realm of food. It can be about the education, about the way they dress up and the like. Talk about the benefits, attach value, and try to position this conversation and the benefits of what this person gets. And they will understand. Maybe not in the first conversation, maybe not in the second, but it has to be a continuous engagement. And with time, they adapt it and it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, you don't have to force a child to take water. They will just understand that my body needs water, and they should be able to ask for it, and they should be able to easily take it. And that cuts across anything else that we want them to have for their benefits. Thanks for listening.